"You're too fat to sit in this car. You'll break the carbon fiber," laughs arrogant salesman Julian, kicking Jamal out of the luxury Bugatti dealership because of his weight. He thinks Jamal is just a broke loiterer, ruining the showroom's aesthetic. But he has no idea that the man he just humiliated is the financial genius behind the war room and Andrew Tate's personal crypto architect. Watch the shock of a lifetime when Andrew Tate arrives, ignores the salesman, and buys the entire dealership just to hand the keys to the fat man. Subscribe for powerful stories where the underestimated rise and justice is undeniable. Your weight is a liability to the engineering of this vehicle, the salesman sneered, his voice cutting through the hushed reverence of the showroom like a jagged knife. "You are too fat to even sit in a Bugatti, let alone drive one. Please remove yourself before you snap the carbon fiber." This was the welcome Jamal Bishop received the moment he dared to touch the door handle of the Chiron Per Sport. He stood frozen, his hand retracting as if burned, while Julian, the dealership's top salesman, wiped the spot Jamal had touched with a silk handkerchief, his face twisted in a mask of performative disgust. Julian looked at Jamal, a large, heavy-set black man in an oversized hoodie and sweatpants, and saw nothing but a waste of space. He saw a man who didn't belong in the temple of high-speed luxury. He saw a target. But Julian did not see the mind behind the man. He did not know that Jamal Bishop was the phantom architect of the digital age, the man whose algorithms controlled liquidity pools worth billions. He didn't know that Jamal was the financial spine of the war room, the silent genius who moved mountains of cryptocurrency with a single keystroke. Julian only saw the weight, the size, the physical imposition of a man who refused to shrink. And so, he decided to crush him. The showroom of prestige exotics was a cathedral of excess. Polished marble floors reflected the aggressive curves of multi-million-dollar hypercars. The air smelled of tire, rubber, and expensive cologne. It was a place designed to make the wealthy feel like gods and the ordinary feel like intruders. Jamal had walked in not to be worshipped, but to buy. He had been eyeing the Chiron for months, analyzing its specs with the same obsessive detail he applied to blockchain ledgers. He appreciated the engineering, the sheer audacity of the machine. He had walked 3 miles to the dealership, part of his new grueling regimen to reclaim his health. But the sweat on his brow was now cold with humiliation. Julian advanced on Jamal, stepping into his personal space with the aggressive posture of a man used to bullying those he deemed inferior. He didn't just ask Jamal to leave, he performed an eviction. He loudly critiqued Jamal's breathing, mocking the way his chest heaved after the long walk. He pointed out the width of the bucket seats, laughing at the mathematical impossibility of Jamal fitting into them without destroying the leather bolsters. He called over the security guard, a man who looked uncomfortable but obligated to follow orders, and instructed him to escort the health hazard off the premises before he collapsed and caused a lawsuit. Jamal said nothing. He didn't argue. He didn't pull out his black card or shout about his net worth. He simply looked at Julian with eyes that had seen market crashes and recoveries, eyes that understood the fleeting nature of false power. He felt the familiar burn of shame, the heat rising in his cheeks, the heavy awareness of his own body that the world constantly reminded him was wrong. He stepped back, moving away from the car he could have bought with the interest his accounts earned in a single day. He allowed himself to be herded toward the glass doors, the laughter of Julian and two other associates echoing in his ears. They called him a beached whale. They joked about needing a forklift to remove him. They stripped him of his dignity because they couldn't see past his silhouette. Outside, the heat of the pavement radiated through the soles of Jamal's sneakers. He stood on the curb, watching the traffic flow by, feeling the weight of the rejection settling in his gut. It wasn't the first time. It wouldn't be the last. But today, the timing was cosmic, because Jamal wasn't just browsing, he was waiting. He checked his phone, a simple cracked device that held the keys to a kingdom. A message flashed, ETA 2 minutes, Top G is landing. The rumble started as a low vibration in the ground, a seismic warning that something powerful was approaching. Then came the sound, the distinct, guttural roar of a W-16 engine, not just one, but a convoy. The atmosphere on the street shifted. Pedestrians stopped. Phones came out. A copper-colored Bugatti Chiron, followed by two matte black SUVs, tore around the corner and screeched to a halt directly in front of the dealership. The doors opened with military precision. Andrew Tate stepped out of the lead car. He looked exactly as the world imagined him, sunglasses reflecting the sun, a cigar unlit in his hand, radiating an aura of absolute, unapologetic dominance. He buttoned his suit jacket, scanned the perimeter, and marched toward the entrance of the dealership. His brother Tristan flanked him, along with a security detail that made the dealership's guard look like a mall cop. Inside, Julian's demeanor underwent a miraculous transformation. The sneer vanished, replaced by a sycophantic, trembling smile. He practically sprinted to the door, smoothing his hair, checking his breath. This was it. The client he had been emailing for months. The Top G himself. Julian had prepared his pitch, rehearsed his compliments, ready to sell the soul of the dealership to get a commission from Tate. He threw the doors open, bowing slightly, extending a hand that was shaking with adrenaline. He welcomed Mr. Tate with the fervor of a disciple greeting a prophet. He gestured to the showroom, offering champagne, offering a private viewing, offering to clear the floor of all other distractions. He didn't mention the distraction he had just kicked out. He led the way, walking backward, his eyes fixed on Tate's sunglasses, desperate for validation. But Andrew Tate didn't stop at the cars. He didn't stop at the champagne. He walked straight past Julian, ignoring the outstretched hand, ignoring the fawning welcome. He walked through the showroom, his stride eating up the distance, heading straight for the glass doors that led back to the street. Julian froze, confused, then scrambled to follow, assuming Tate had seen something wrong with the valet service. Tate pushed the doors open and stepped back onto the curb. He looked left, then right, his gaze locked onto Jamal, who was standing quietly by a lamppost, looking at the ground. Tate's expression didn't soften. Tate didn't do soft, but it shifted into something intense and focused. He walked up to Jamal, the heavy-set man Julian had just called a waste of space. Julian watched in horror as Andrew Tate, the icon of fitness and masculinity, the man who preached discipline above all else, stopped in front of the overweight man. Julian expected Tate to mock him. He expected a lesson on obesity. He expected the Top G to finish the job Julian had started. Instead, Tate reached out and clamped a hand on Jamal's shoulder. It wasn't a casual pat. It was a grip of solidarity. Tate leaned in, removing his sunglasses. He didn't ask Jamal why he was outside. He knew. He looked at the dealership, then back at Jamal. He asked a single question, his voice carrying the weight of a thunderclap. "Did you check the liquidity on the new coin before you came to look at toys?" Jamal looked up, meeting Tate's eyes. He nodded slowly. He recited the numbers from memory, the market cap, the volatility index, the exact profit margin they had secured in the last hour. It was a string of data that would make a Wall Street banker's head spin. Tate nodded, satisfied. He turned to Tristan and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, that this man right here, was the only reason the war room's vault was overflowing today. He called Jamal the brain. He called him brother. Julian's world began to tilt. He stepped forward, stammering, trying to intervene. He tried to explain to Tate that this man was a loiterer, a nuisance, someone who didn't fit the brand. He tried to make a joke about Jamal's size, hoping to align himself with Tate's philosophy on fitness. He said something about keeping the entrance clear of heavy obstacles. Tate turned slowly. The movement was predatory. He looked at Julian as if he were a bug that had dared to land on his suit. He looked at the salesman's cheap shoes, his nervous sweating, his weak chin. Tate didn't shout. He spoke with a terrifying calm. He asked Julian if he knew who this man was. He didn't wait for an answer. He explained that while Julian was busy judging people based on the size of their waistline, Jamal was busy calculating the geometric curvature of the global economy. He told Julian that Jamal's brain was worth more than every car in this showroom combined. Then Tate addressed the body shaming directly. He looked at Jamal's body, then at Julian's. He acknowledged that Jamal had work to do in the gym, something Jamal nodded at respectfully, but he emphasized that fat could be burned off. Discipline could be learned, but being a snake, a judgmental, weak, superficial beta male who picked on people he thought were powerless, that was a permanent condition. Tate spat on the ground near Julian's feet. He told the salesman that true strength wasn't about abs. It was about capability. And Jamal was the most capable man in the zip code. Julian tried to pivot, tried to apologize, tried to say he was just following protocol. But Tate was done with him. He turned his back on the salesman and looked at Jamal. He asked if Jamal liked the place. Not the cars, the place, the building, the business. Jamal shrugged, looking at the sign above the door. He said the location was good, but the management was inefficient. Tate nodded. He pulled out his phone. He didn't call a manager. He called his banker. He put it on speaker. He instructed his team to buy the dealership. Not a car. The dealership. The land. The inventory. The contracts. He wanted it all. He looked at Julian while he gave the order. He told his banker to ensure that the acquisition clause included an immediate restructuring of staff. Julian fell to his knees, metaphorically and nearly physically. He realized what was happening. He wasn't just losing a sale. He was losing his livelihood. He watched as the man he had called a beached whale stood silently while the billionaire negotiated the purchase of his reality. Tate hung up. He looked at Jamal. "It's yours," he said. "Run it better than this clown. Turn it into a crypto hub. Put a gym in the back. Do whatever you want." He tossed the keys to his own copper Bugatti to Jamal. "You drive. I want to talk about the Ethereum fork on the way back." Jamal caught the keys. He looked at the carbon fiber fob in his hand. He looked at the car Julian had said would break under his weight. He walked past the salesman, who was now trembling, pale, and silent. Jamal stopped. He didn't gloat. He didn't yell. He simply looked at Julian and said calmly that he would be conducting performance reviews on Monday, and Julian should probably update his resume because he didn't fit the new culture. Jamal squeezed himself into the driver's seat of the Bugatti. It was tight, it was uncomfortable, but he fit. He started the engine, the roar shaking the glass of the showroom windows. Tate got in the passenger side, lighting his cigar. As they pulled away, leaving Julian amidst the ruins of his arrogance, Jamal realized something. His weight was a temporary battle he was fighting, but his mind, his value, and his brotherhood with men who saw the truth. That was permanent. The fat man drove the hypercar into the sunset, leaving the perfect salesman behind in the dust.